Here is Malika Jabali, author. I don't know if she's still, where was she working before?
Current Affairs, a few other places.
And Essence Magazine, I think, most recently.
Oh, yeah.
And she's on with Ayman Moinuddin on MSNBC, talking about essentially how working people opting out of the electoral process. We should say that, like, Donald Trump's numbers, he did better, you know, like significantly better. It's not, you know, in some of these swing states. But his vote total in general was more or less where it was in 2020. So there was, you know, a lack of votes for Harris. I mean, we could say like, oh, she lost more in blue states, but his actual vote tally is, you know, only 500,000 more than it was 10, 20 years ago. And there's a lot more voters.
Oh, that's true. I mean, she exceeded Biden in like Wisconsin, for example, and kind of met his numbers in Michigan and Pennsylvania, but there were just more people that turned out for Trump.
And that's an electoral college
turned out in
too.
Specific areas, but across the country, not as much.
That's an electoral college problem, because like in New York, if you're a Democrat, you think that Democrats are going to win my
that's true.
state.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Maybe, but in 2020, we didn't. I mean, she's going to have something like 70 million, I think it is, it votes. And
COVID was very, I think people were disgusted and needed to change. I mean,
and at the time,
I don't, you know, right. And also I will say, like, we don't know if Biden could have won that election without COVID.
Right. I mean, who knows? All right. But let's play this Malika Jabali.
Well, I think first we have to identify what we mean by working class. And I think a big problem is that we tend to treat the working class as a monolith. So yes, he's winning over some conservatives who might have flipped over from Obama to Trump in 2016. But if you look at this election, Kamala Harris actually did better with voters of color who did not have a college degree. She had 62% to Donald Trump's 38%. So when we treat the working class as synonymous with white people, we're ignoring a lot of what's happening with what I call slide voters. These are people who are opting out of the electoral process altogether. These are non-voters, people who decide that the Republican Party is not a political home for them, even with their frustration. Black women, Black men, Latino women, these are CNAs, these are Lyft drivers, these are warehouse workers who do not actually find a home with Donald Trump and are not drawn to him. So instead of swinging back and forth, I say that they're sliding out. They are checking out of the process. 15 million people stayed home. So I don't think we should overstate Donald Trump's appeal with the working class, because it's not a monolith. And then what happens is when you have somebody like Kamala Harris, like Maurice said, who represents a party that is capitalist, just like the Republican Party is a capitalist party. They benefit from billionaire donors. So what they rely on, since their policies aren't fundamentally going to address the needs of the working class, they have to rely on certain messaging. And if Kamala Harris has mixed messages where she's starting off with this populism, but doesn't even say the word working class. I rarely heard her say that phrase, if ever. She had an economic speech in Philadelphia, or excuse me, in Pennsylvania, not long after the debate. And I think what was happening is that she was working on the defense because Trump called her a capitalist. So she has to then say, you know what? I am a capitalist. Did not say anything about Medicare for all. Did not say anything about a $15 minimum wage, things that were tentpole issues for Bernie Sanders. So the way that they get those people back, I think looking at non-voters who are drawn to things like a $15 minimum wage and don't believe that populism requires racism.
I mean, there you go. I mean, you know, look, the bottom line is, again, as we talk about sort of like identity politics and whatnot, there is one party where the overwhelming majority of its voters are one race, white people. And that is Donald Trump. They don't have any, squabbles about political correctness, because they're all on the same page. As long as it's politically correct for white people, well, there's no argument.
White women broke for Trump again per exit polls. We'll see if that's updated. Somebody who's been found liable for rape. So it's pretty bleak. And
then the question is, honestly, it's like, you know, if Donald Trump is getting the same amount of votes, more or less, than he did in 2020 when he lost, the problem is that Kamala Harris is getting millions upon millions less. Now, she may have lost some because, people in blue states said, like, I'm just not interested in voting for her this year, but she's going to win anyways in this state, so I don't care, which maybe. But
we know in certain communities like the Bronx, people were saying, we're not going to vote for you because of policy in the Middle East.
Right. No, without a doubt. I mean, without a doubt. That's the point, is that, like, there were certain areas where she was not compelling people to vote for them. In fact, I would say, she was almost like pushing people away. And they made a bet, and we were conscious of them making the bet. And, I sat in the seat 3 weeks ago saying, like, I hope it's right. I'm worried about if she wins with this constituency is a problem.
Like I said,
but I'd be more worried if she loses, because of this bet. And the bet was wrong.
Yep.
You cannot run against a Republican by touting Republicans voting for. I mean, this is the problem with also, like, the whole theory for the past 9 years that Trump is not a Republican and that we can cleave, that's no, he's a Republican. The Republicans are him. And this isn't a new phenomena. He didn't bend the Republican Party to his will. On the contrary, he was born out of them. He came from the Republican womb.
And as you say,
the IVF was his birtherism. Mitt Romney did not fly to New York City to kiss the ring of, Whoopi Goldberg or Joy Behar. No, he flew to New York City in 2012 to kiss Donald Trump's ring, to get his blessing in the Republican primary in 2012. Donald Trump is a Republican, and the whole attempt to sort of like siphon him off from Paul Ryan and from Mitch McConnell, and then from what's her face, Cheney. Thank God I'll never have to say her name
Liz
again.
Cheney. Yeah.
But she not only voted with him like 95% of the time, she was out there in 2019 in front of a podium saying the Democrats kill babies after they're born. I mean, it was a calculated bet, and it failed miserably. And as much as those of us who were saying this seems a little suspicious bit our tongue because there was, it's a 3-week run to the presidency, 6-week or whatever it was.
It was a failure.
Yep.
It was a
an
failure.
abject failure.
And when you you exceptionalize him by saying that that they're MAGA Republicans, and you almost give him a free pass to be just the celebrity guy like he was during the Apprentice years. I mean, when you look at the age demographics that he won too, it's a lot of people that watch The Apprentice, and you make him, if outside of the Republican establishment, which is also reviled, then it's almost like, okay, voting for him isn't a vote for the Republican Party because he's pissing off the establishment Republicans too. It's just the only people, and this is of course in hindsight, but that this appeals to are people that are already voting for Kamala Harris, people who are already really engaged in politics, and who that would matter towards. It's like a few new. It's the same thing.
It's the worst part of the Democratic constituency that would be happy to have Liz Cheney on the campaign trail.
But they're overrepresented in coastal states, right? So like these never Trump Republicans get the ear of these Democratic consultants, and they think that that is a much bigger slice of the pie than it ends up being.
Rolf, this Jabali thing is a lie. Black and white votes shares didn't move. Hispanic and Asians moved to Trump. This may be this may be the case, but let's be clear. He also, again, did not get that many more votes. I mean,
the vote shares,
buckets and buckets are saying, why not wait till the vote totals are in? We can. We know that there's extant votes, probably millions in California, but there's every reason to believe that those are going to break somewhere between 60-40 and, 75-25 in favor of Harris coming out of California. I mean, I guess it's conceivable that, that Trump wins the majority of extant votes in California, although I think that's very, very dubious. So you're still going to have this. She's going to have the deficit. He's going to have a marginal increase.
Yeah, and vote shares and then the exit polling about what motivated people to vote on that day do not offer a complete picture about like what caused, say, a turnout gap or advantage. Like I think people are overstating that to say Gaza had no impact or this class stuff has no impact. Like there's a flip from 2020 to 2024. Between 100K voters and under 100K voters. And you can get more. And I take Malika's point that non-college educated black voters increase their turnout to Harris. And I think that stuff is important. But overall, the whole working class, in that specific state, that is, the whole working class swept to Republicans. That is a absolute emergency that happened. And people better hope that that doesn't show itself again in 2028.
Hey, Donald Trump has once again told us just how far he's willing to go to get his way. The other day, he suggested the use of military force on Election Day and after against the enemy from within, or known as left-wing Americans. Everyone knows it was his base that stormed the Capitol, but that's not stopping the right from reporting Trump's supporters aren't the ones to worry about. But the great thing about ground news is no matter what article you see first, you're going to get instant access to every other perspective reporting on it. So in there, you will find the truth. Now, we keep working with our longtime sponsors because A, they're independent, B, they're nonpartisan, and C, they're dedicated to exposing any hidden agenda that's influencing the news you consume. This way, you get media literate. You can follow their newsletters or check out their app and their website. Easily stay informed through diverse and credible sources. Plus, for me, my Vantage plan gets me access to features designed to expose opposing narratives that are exclusively circulating in their bubble and also expose me to ones that I may be stuck in a bubble of, my own blind spots. So we all know Trump and his base are only going to ramp up the lies. Go to ground.news/majority or scan my QR code for credible news you can trust and confidently share with others. My viewers get a massive discount on the same top-tier Vantage plan I use every day. With everything at stake, we can't afford not to pay attention. Subscribe today because the fight for democracy doesn't stop after November 5th. It's just getting started.